Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Bill Allen. I'm sitting in for Winston Chester this morning, who is enjoying his spring break with a little pompano fishing, so we should have a great report from the Cape. I hope he's enjoying yourself. Winston, if you're watching, I hope you're having a great time. Glad to be able to sit in for you. Today is Tuesday, March the 25th, and our weather is brought to us by Haney Technical Center. A little bit cooler than it's been. It's supposed to be a high of 66 today and a low tonight of 40. Won't last long though. Northwest wind 12 miles an hour plus, gusting to 15 to 20 at some time. So you just say, it's March. You got to be aware of that. Looking at our tides today in Panama City, the high is at 3:56 a.m. The low, is 3:56 a.m. and the high is 6:16 p.m. So you got a good incoming tide all day. St. Joe, the low at 3:22 a.m. with the high at 7:31 p.m. Okay, we're looking at probably partly cloudy today, getting over some of that rain we had, so should be a pretty decent day to be out there. Now let's take a look at our river readings. The Choctawhatchee is at 8.5 feet and it's falling, so it's a great time to be over there. It's kind of getting over that high. And then let's go take a look at Appalach. If I got that up there right, Jeff, or did it fall? Appalach is at 14 feet and it's sideways, so you got to be careful out there. And it's 14 feet and it's falling after that little peak we had. So if you like to fish that falling river over the time, and I always talk about catfishing because it's just a great time to be over there catfishing. This is a good time to be down the river. So when we come back, we got some great tips and tactics for you this morning for trailer, for boat, for tackle. It's a good show, and I hope you'll stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Glad you stayed with us. We want to talk a little bit this morning about rods and reels and caring for them and some tips maybe to help you extend the life of them. I know we all do it, or we all should do it, but you got to be washing your reels and rods down after being in salt water. I know that sounds obvious, but there's some people that just don't realize how important that is. Good freshwater wash down, which needs to include your guides, okay? Don't let your guides go rusty on you because they can cause you a lot of problems, with breaking and everything else. But now also, a great tip, especially if you're fishing these braided lines like Power Pro and these other super lines, which I highly recommend, but they can be really rough on ceramic guides, and it's something that you have to keep an eye on, especially around the tips. So one thing that I do is just a simple Q-tip, and all you really have to do is take it and run it around the inside and the outside, okay, all the way up. Now, especially the tip, because that's where it gets most of the pressure. These lines are they're fine lines, and under a lot of pressure, especially if you catch a lot of big fish like you claim you do, they can put some nicks both on the inside of these ceramic guides and on the outside, or the upper side of it. Once this line starts rubbing across that, you could lose a truly big fish just because you're not paying attention to those ceramic guides. So that's very important. As long as we're talking about guides, if you're using top water or anything with a hook in it, which obviously we all are, this little keeper is the place to go, okay? I see too many people hooking it here on the ceramic, and that puts undue pressure. It pushes up on the ceramic, and when you look up and you see that popped off, that's largely that's what does it. So you want to keep this in the keeper, or if it's rust off because you're not washing it down, or you don't have one, you can put it inside the guide up here, just not on the ceramic. Okay, very important that you protect the ceramic on these things, both from the line wear and from just not putting it on there properly. A lot of us fish all year. Some of you put stuff up for the winter and start fishing right now, but it's very important and extend the life of your reel if you'll take it and have an annual service. You know, all the tackle shops that I know of will do it for you. It's not really expensive. They'll take it apart, they'll clean your reel, they'll grease it for you, and you should do it once a year. It'll just extend the life of your reels. A lot of reels like these Stratics have the little port in there where you can unscrew them and you can put a couple of drops of oil in there, you know, during the fishing season when they're not being maintained. So it's a great time right now before things really heat up is have those reels serviced. Now here's something that a lot of people I find out don't know. When you're done for the day and you're washing them down, loosen the drag. Okay, a lot of us we'll have the drag tightened down for fish fighting purposes, but it puts a lot of pressure on those discs in there. A lot of them are Teflon, and so if you'll back this drag off to where where it's loose, where you can just easily pull it with your hand, it's going to extend the life of your drag. Okay, and that's probably the biggest cause of breakdowns and expensive repairs is having these things. Having to replace those drag systems or those washers in there. So very important that you do that, and that's something I found not everybody knows. So and don't forget when you start fishing to check your drag, because there's nothing worse than losing a fish because you didn't reset that drag and it was too loose. But also, let's go back to the lines a minute. Ricky Snellgrove gave me this tip, a lifelong friend of mine, extremely knowledgeable about what goes on here in the water. But these power pole spools, or most of these spools come in like 150-yard spools or 300. And I've got spare spools for all my reels. What Ricky suggested is that you put 75 yards of monofilament backing on here, and then 75 yards of your Power Pro or whatever your line is of choice, okay? Which makes a lot of sense, and I've used it now for several months, and it works extremely well. That way you can fill your primary spool and your backup spool with just one, and it'll, with 150 yard spool. So it saves you a lot of money there. Now, if you haven't done that, inspect your line, and what you may want to consider is taking all that line off, turning it around backwards, and putting it back on, because there's a whole lot of line in there that you haven't used. So think about those things for your tackle, and it'll extend the life of your reels and save you some money on the line. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about boat trailers. Welcome back. Hope you found that helpful. It'll extend the life of your line and your rods and reels, which means it extends your fishing budget and your time on the water. But now, talking about time on the water, if your boat's not behind your house, the trailer may be the most important thing that you can spend some time with in the spring to ensure that you and your family get to the water and not being on the side of the road somewhere. So this is a great time right now to start doing some annual maintenance on your trailer, which is very simple and doesn't take long. Check your lights and your connections, okay? Have somebody standing behind the trailer, make sure everything works. But go beyond that and go ahead and check your connections. Most of the trailer problems that we encounter are with the ground wires. So, be sure you check your connections. And salt water gets to everything regardless of what you do. Using heat shrink on your line connections is a great way to do it. But you can go beyond that. And even if you don't, if you're still twisting the wires together and then, taping them up, here's a little tip for you there. If you're doing it that way, take a little silicone and cover up the bare wires where you've twisted them together. You can also use something called liquid electrical tape, which works very well. Use that same silicone on your boat trailer where your ground is connected. Cover that up. It's not going to be permanent. Just cover it up, and it'll again help protect it. You always, especially if you're twisting it, let that stuff dry once you put the electrical tape or the silicone on it, and then go ahead and tape it with your electrical tape. But check all your connections. just so it's not something that you're going to have to stop in the middle of or get up one morning early and find out you don't have lights, which can be dangerous for everybody. Now, don't forget to check the air in your spare tire when you're checking your tires, okay? A flat spare tire won't do you any good on the side of the road. I promise you, I know that for a fact. So when you're checking the air in your tires to extend the life of your tires, make sure they're wearing even, go ahead and check it on your spare tire. And that's something that I shouldn't have to say, but if you don't have a spare tire, you need to have one. And I know a lot of people that carry not only a spare tire, but an extra hub in there that's all greased up in case that goes bad on you. Which leads me to my next thing. Make sure you got plenty of grease in there, have your little grease gun with you, and fill those things up. Every couple of 3 times that I use the boat, which is usually once a week, I'm checking the grease in there to make sure that it's full and those bearings are well lubed. That's the first thing that's going to put you on the side of the road, your tires and your bearings. Now, also, a great tip that I got a little over a year ago when I had my trailer's aluminum, but I had to replace the axle, I had to replace the hubs and everything, because even as much, you can wash it down all you want and your springs, but you still get a lot of saltwater corrosion on there. It's just going to eat it up after a while. So I had the whole thing replaced just to be safe. But here's a great tip that I got. The same bearing grease that you're shooting into the hubs for your ball bearings, get up under the boat, get an extra tube of that, and get a handful of it, okay? I coated down the entire axle. And then I did the springs, top, bottom, insides, and then I put it all around the insides of the wheels and the outsides where the nuts are at, okay? And I really believe, and I've talked to a lot of people, it's amazing that it will extend the life, because basically you're waterproofing your axle, you're waterproofing your springs, your leaf springs under there. So it's something that I after spending that much money to replace everything, what can I do? That's what I was told. And I think that's a fantastic tip and something that everybody ought to do if it's going in salt water. Just take you a few minutes. It's a little bit on the greasy side, but just make sure you coat things down real heavily. I do it twice a year. I do it in the spring and I do it in the fall. Of course, my boat's on the road the whole time, so it's not ever parked. But check your trailer out. If you ever had trailer trouble, your day's over right there, because it's going to be expensive and it's going to take a long time. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the boat and the motor itself and maybe some safety things that you can do just to help to ensure that you have a good time on the water. So be right back. Hey, welcome back. I hope you're finding today's show helpful and you maybe pick up a tip or two that'll help you to extend your time on the water. So let's talk about boats and motors for the time being. If you're not using ethanol-free gasoline, you ought to be. Everybody that I've talked to that does boat repairs says that 70% of their work is coming from people who aren't using ethanol-free gas or who are not using the proper gas treatment for it, okay? So if you can't get ethanol-free gas for whatever reason, there's not anything convenient to you, you need to really be sure that you're using a quality additive that goes in every time you fill that up, because the ethanol will eat away at the hoses and cause you a lot of problems. So you need to be doing that. Now, once a year I have an annual service done on my motor, okay? It's not that expensive, but it's a lot less expensive than having to have some repairs done. I have it tuned up, have the lower unit oil changed, have it gone through completely, and water pump. Don't make the mistake of having a 3 or 4 year old water pump out there in salt water, because when it goes out, you're done. So probably every couple of years you want to have that replaced. Some people will tell you every year, but I probably do mine every 2 to 3 years, okay? Make sure all your fittings are greased and everything, and your hoses are proper. You know, they'll check them when you do it, but that annual service is very important to to extending the life of your motor as well, and it's a lot cheaper than big repairs. Wax your hull. Make sure your boat's clean, and especially the outside of your boat is waxed, okay? It will help to prevent some of that hard water stains on there. The boat will handle smoother and supposedly get better gas mileage, but be sure you, at least once a year, you have a good solid marine wax job on your hull. Again, we're talking about extending the life of your hull, and it's a great time to inspect it in case you've run across any oyster shells or sandbars like occasionally we do. I found a pretty good gash in the bottom of mine and had it fixed. So, and it's the only reason is because, you know, we were down there inspecting it and doing some wax work on it. Check your running lights. Very important. You don't want to find out if you've had this great day and you've stayed till after dark and you haven't put your lights in on your boat to expect them if they're not built in. Just make sure that your running lights, your bow lights and your stern lights are working, so that you again be safe out on the water. Before you get started for the year, test your batteries, both your trolling motor and your cranking batteries, okay? The life on those things is really only a couple of years as well. So, check the dates on them, put a battery test on them, and don't just plug it in, and if your trolling motor works, it's fine. Put a battery tester on there, find out if you're getting the proper charge on it every time, okay? You don't want to back the boat down in the water and then hop in it and turn it on and the key be dead, all right? So, always do this at the beginning of the year. Now, safety-wise, of course, all those things will help you to be safe. Inspect your life jackets, okay? Make sure there's not any tears in them, and make sure that you have the proper size for everybody that you're going to have on board, okay? Those big, orange, bulky ones, they're legal and they'll save your life, but people don't wear them because they're bulky, okay? And I'm guilty of that as well. But especially, with younger teenagers and younger kids, you get these fitted life jackets that is for their weight. You buy it by weight. That's the other thing. My grandsons are growing, so, last year's jacket might not be this year's jacket. So make sure jackets are properly fitted, okay? And another thing, especially, if you're by yourself, and this is what I've been using, okay? I got this at Blue Water. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't been the greatest about wearing a life jacket when I'm running around by myself, and it's not smart, I know that. But maybe I'm not getting any smarter, but I'm getting older and thinking about it more. This is just a belt, goes around your waist, has the tab on it. It's comfortable, it's not in the way, it's bulky. It's got a little clip right here, that you can put your kill switch on. And even if you're not running by yourself, if you're driving, something happens, you get flipped out, the kill switch is very important, okay? And having something I've found that's comfortable, that you can wear without really noticing it, you'll wear it more often, okay? It's just human nature, I guess, but that's an excellent thing to have. You've got the inflatable jackets, the automatically inflatable that are not bulky, and you've got the ones that with the pull handle where you have to pull them, but they're not very bulky. Remember this, if you've got 3 people on the boat and you've got 3 of these, or you've got 3 of the inflatable kind, they don't count unless you have them on. The Coast Guard is not going to count these as life jackets unless they're being worn, okay? That's something maybe a lot of you don't know. So it's great to have these, but you have to have them on. If you get inspected and you start pulling life jackets out and they're all like this and nobody's wearing them, it's not going to count, all right? So there's a good tip right there. Have a first aid kit on your boat. They make them from this size to this size. You can buy them at just about any pharmacy. A lot of the stores carry them, and they're outdoors, or they're whatever kits. But just a simple first aid kit and make sure that you replace what you use during the year. It's a good time to check for that. That too can extend your time on the water, and it also could be something that will allow you the time to get help. If somebody is really seriously hurt, you can do some basic first aid. Which brings me to another point. Not a bad idea to get with the Red Cross. Take one of those basic CPR and first aid classes. Everybody thinks about it and, well, I ought to do it in this. Don't wait till it's too late and you say, man, you have a problem that you could do something with, but you don't have the skills to do it. It's simple. You can make it a family thing. It's only a few hours, and it may well save your family or friends' lives when you're out on the boat. I know Winston mentioned this. This is a great thing. I'm sitting down with my grandson now, who's 10, about to be 11, and going through this. Now, if you were born after January the 1st, 1988, you have got to have this little certification to be able to operate the boat. If you don't have a lot of knowledge and you were born before that, this is a great thing to do. It's a great family thing to do. You go through it. There's a little test in the end. It's open book. Take it as a family. Discuss these. Look up the answers. It's perfectly fine. Send it in, and you get a little boating card, which is a source of pride, especially for the youngsters, okay? So this is something that will help to increase your knowledge and safety, and it's a law if you're born after 1988. So another great family thing to do, take this CPR class together. All of you look at this. Find the answers, study it. It's a little source of pride, like I said, for your grandchildren and your smaller children, but it also will help just make you safer on the water, and you may learn something that you didn't know. So anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you found something in today's show that will help increase your time on the water and increase your safety on the water. We got a great show lined up tomorrow with Captain Justin Lee and Captain Matt Smith. We're going to be talking about a situation in the bay with a lot of this grass that's dead and how you may have to change the way you fish. So have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.